Here we go, guys. Now the fun begins. So I'm doing a video on the Nasdaq. Obviously, this is a group of 100 different stocks. This, along with the Dow Jones and the S&P 500, pretty much sums up how our stocks are going to be doing throughout the course of the next month or two. So, I mean, I've made videos on, I don't know if I made videos on this specifically, but I've made videos on the Dow Jones and a few other things, and I talked about a potential big pullback coming, which is why I went all cash at one point prior to this dump. So, you know, I made the right move there, right? And I've been kind of just trying to make breakout trades here and there. And of course, they're all just not cooperating because nothing wants to get my hourly confirmation above. And then if it does try to, pretty much is just a bull trap, fakes everyone out, and then drops to even lower prices. So, I mean, so many stocks are just getting absolutely fucking hammered, like, you know, more than 30% pullbacks here. So, you know, if your stock's getting hammered like that, you know, you're not alone. So, I mean, I have a couple things that I had bought on the first initial, you know, this first initial dip here. We had a pretty solid mean pullback here. And, you know, there has been many stocks that I've been day trading, not so much day trading, but swing trading. You know, this thing dumps, the stocks all dump, they find their support, I buy their support. And it was pretty much the same support roughly with the 4 or 5 different stocks that I've been playing every single day. So I've been able to buy, say, NNDM, for example, at 967, run it up, sell it at 1040, comes back to 967, I buy. I did this for 3 or 4 times. Well, this last time I went to do it, and I wasn't even looking at the chart. And I just said, oh, it's back at 967, I'm going to buy again. Well, I should have been looking at the chart because, boy, did it fucking go, right? And it fell to the next support down, which we talked about in that video. And if you're interested in that, go check on that. But it's at the, you know, the weekly EMA here. Now, this is the Nasdaq. Anyway, sorry, getting off topic. So I have this I've had this rising channel in here, and I have a breakdown target of this rising channel for 10K. Now, I'll show you how you would measure the move of a rising channel if we in fact can't get back in here anytime soon. So it's the width of the channel, right? So you can see the size of this fucking thing. So the breakdown target of it brings us down to roughly 10,000. Well, actually, let me get an exact accurate here because I'm not even on my trend line. So we broke it there. So our breakdown target of that is $10,000 or 10,095 points, dollars, whatever you guys want to call it. Okay, so, you know, obviously we haven't come that far yet. And, you know, my next, you know, we came down here. We got a nice bounce here. We've gotten a bounce kind of like over here in the past. So, you know, a lot of buyers are kind of buying off of here. So, you know, I drew this flat bottom of support. And this here, which I don't even know where I got that from, because that's kind of where we're at right there. And that there is a lovely descending triangle, which is a bearish pattern, of course, right? So, you know, we can see that we've came up here, we've tried to back test this, and this is usually how it's been going because we've been having we've been having obviously like 3 weeks of absolute red days. Now let's just take a look at the weekly chart real quick. So, I mean, 2 weeks. I guess it's been, 2 weeks? Jesus, it feels like a lot more than that. So maybe it has been in the 2 weeks, but it feels like 3 or 4. So, you know, this is the first bearish week. Boom. This is the second bearish week where we're at now. I feel like we've had more than 2 bearish weeks, but needless to say, it doesn't fucking stop. So we've had days where we've came down, and every time we've bounced off of this trend line here and we get the buyback, we get a nice good bounce, right? So then same with this day, same with this day, buyback, bounce, this day, buyback, bounce. And then this was our really nice day. Like we had a couple, or a nice 2 days that we had really, really good days, and my portfolio was looking very, very fucking good. And luckily I sold a lot of that stuff. And then I bought some stuff today, somewhere when this thing was probably right around here or even here, and we just completely wicked through the support here. And we could have definitely broken down, but we actually, thankfully, as far as I'm concerned, although it looks like, is that after hours? That's what I'm wondering. So, I mean, if we did, in fact, buy back here, right, we got a daily close above this, that's great. If we are, in fact, at this point here of 12,683, that's very, very bad. So hopefully we didn't close. I didn't see where we closed, but looking at this chart, it looks like we closed up in this range. So that would be a little better here. Now, that doesn't still tell us too much, because you can see on the daily 20 EMA or 21 EMA here, we're rounding over here. And of course, this is a bearish pattern, and we've been very bearish, and I don't expect us to, instantly start getting bullish here. So usually you break down towards this part of the apex here, right? So, somewhere between March 10th to March 22nd or 21st, and this could even happen as of tomorrow, but we're going to take a look at some technicals really quick and see if that would make sense here. Now, we can get a nice green candle here and, buy back up to this 13,226 level if we haven't closed below here. And if we did close below here, we still could buy back up in here, right? But the breakdown target of this descending triangle here is 11,931. So if we think we've seen the worst of what we've seen for red days, we're sadly mistaken, because we have a lot more to go. And that's the downside to everything here. So now if we look here on the 4-hour, we are getting this death cross. We did get this death cross today here. We're going to get another one here tomorrow, which will push us inevitably down below this pattern here. So if we look at the RSI here, and also not just that, but this is a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. So potentially you have a breakdown of a head and shoulders pattern. You have a breakdown of a descending triangle. So in fact, roughly they're about the same measurement as far as the breakdown, but the head and shoulders pattern brings us down to 11,800. We are not quite, unfortunately, oversold here, right? So we still have some more room to come down on this. Now, if this was a tiny little head and shoulders, right, so maybe this will come down here to this line, we will get a buyback, nice bounce, fake everybody out, and then it'll come back lower. Or this is going to be some kind of bear flag here, which it kind of looks like here, right? Bear flag. I mean, if it was, it already broke down from it. So, that's kind of beyond the right, because the RSI already broke through that trend line. So that doesn't even matter. We already broke down from that. This is kind of what we're doing right here, creating a small little bear flag here, and as well as breaking down from this potential breakdown point, which below that, if we were to fall below 12,740 and we got an hourly close below, we couldn't get back above, then guess what? We are heading down further. It's a bummer, because obviously we want everything to be going up. We want to be continuously making money on the upside. But what do you do when you can't make money on the upside? You make money on the downside. So buying puts and whatnot obviously is going to be the play for a little while here. So, if you were loving buying calls and all that in options plays, now you can start loving buying puts, because every time you get these nice green buybacks, you buy a fucking put on something back to the price that it was at prior, and then you make your money, you close that out, so on and so forth. Obviously, options are a little more risky, but that's kind of seems to be what you're probably going to be wanting to do here for a little while. So if we look at the daily, we still have room. We can go down on the RSI. We can come down quite far here. We don't have to, but you can see in the past here, when we've reset the RSI completely, we've came below this dotted line. And that's where we seem to be probably heading here, unfortunately. Now, of course, we've gotten bounces in this general range here, right? So we'll go off of this here and run this across on the bottom of at least this wick here, right? So you can see we have a tiny hair more to go down, potentially, if we were going to bounce at the same exact point here, which would be great for our stocks. So if we were, then maybe this RSI here might create a head and shoulders pattern here to bring us down further, because stocks don't just go straight down, even though it feels like they do these days, right? So I am looking for this potential of a breakdown here tomorrow. But if we somehow get a nice little buyback here, which would be excellent, which you can see that we, on the lower time frames, are starting to get pretty oversold down in this range. Could come a little hair lower here. But, all it really takes is a nice big bounce from the lowest point here back up to a rejection, which means that our stocks are going to be basically doing the same thing. Most of them, if you look on them, are all falling out of their patterns here. Even they're falling wedges. They're falling out of, whatever pattern they were in, and they're starting to break to the downside here. So pretty much following the Nasdaq. Of course we can get a buyback here. We don't have to just continue down here. We can get a nice bounce back into this pattern potentially. Everyone's going to think it's bullish, come back up, touch the top of here, get rejected again, come back down, or we can just fall, steeper fall here, and then get a buyback here. Everyone thinks it's over, get rejected, and then fall further, which potentially every time you fall a little lower here, you trend lower, then you get a nice big buyback, but you're not actually coming back up to, higher highs on our stocks. We're just falling lower on our stocks than buying back to that original price that we probably bought at. So, that being said, we do have a little bit more to go. So probably a couple months here of correction of the same kind of freaky shit. So, one thing we can take a look at for the hell of it is this here is so far from top to bottom where we are now is a 7.9% correction in the Nasdaq. And if you look in the past here, we, even during this whole bull run here, right, this whole entire beautiful, beautiful run up here, we've had pretty steep corrections here, because if you look here on the weekly, you can see that there was times during this beautiful run up here that we had many, many, many weeks of, actually, I think that was, no, that wasn't before there. Let me check. That might have been like COVID times there. You can see that we were in a bear market for many, many weeks. But during this beautiful, beautiful run up here, we had 1, 2, 3 bearish weeks here. Then we had 3 or 4 beautiful days, 1 bearish week. This was pretty much a bearish week, really, really indecision. And then we ran up. So now we're kind of getting into that 1, 2, 3 bearish weeks. But the unfortunate side to it is that we're not in our pattern anymore, and we're not trending up anymore. So we are starting to move to the downside, obviously, right? On the bright side, though, for right now, is we are pretty damn close to testing our 21-week EMA. In a bull market, stocks come down and test their 21 weeks EMA, and if, in fact, they can bounce and not break that 21-week EMA, you can actually continue further up. So, that being said, that's probably our last hope right here for what's going on, because if we can, in fact, somehow hold this, which looks like we're right around right now, 12,622, I would like to stay right above it, 12,632 level, then guess what? We're just retesting our 21-week EMA here, and we might actually be able to, whether we go sideways here for another week where we double bottom here, 1, 2, we could actually continue on our way. And if you look here, what happened here? We had 1 week of red, another week of red, another week of red, where we almost touched our 21-week EMA, and then we came back up. And what did we do here? We had a week of red where we actually broke the 21-week EMA a little bit, but we bought back up, luckily. And then our next week, same thing. We broke it, came back up. So that's something to keep in mind here. And then in the COVID scenario here, right, because was this in COVID? Yep. In the COVID scenario here, we had 1 week of red, 1 week of red, where we broke and closed our weekly below the 21-week. We came back up on the following week, got above it, but we got rejected, and we fell back down here. And what was this correction here? Because I would like to see correction or crash, right? That's a fib retracement. That's not what I wanted to see. This here was, actually, we can go from peak here to low. Well, where's the candlestick? Oh, there it is. This, in fact, was a 30% correction. So a 30% correction is a very, very steep drop. So that's that's a crash, right? So what do we usually get here? I mean, this is another very big one here. This was in December, where we had a 24% pullback. But on average, right, this would probably be called a normal correction here. From peak to low, 14% correction. So, again, what did we do so far? 7%, right? So far, we roughly at around 8%. So if we were going to come down to 15% correction, if that's in fact where we're heading, we would see quite a few more red candles here. So we probably would have another red candle here, another red candle here, another red candle here, and another red candle here, and then maybe a small green candle, maybe a little better candle, and then who knows, right? This is just speculation. We don't know for sure, and that's just saying if we have a 15% correction. So where would that price be? 15% correction would be right around my downside target there, the first target anyway, where I expected we might get a buyback from 11,839. So if we went lower than that and we came down to my lower target here, then we would be looking at a much bigger correction if we came down to this 10,000, right? Did I say 10,000? I think I did. 10,000 correction. That would be a 27% correction. Would that happen in 1 week? I mean, obviously you can see what can happen here, right? You can have where everyone says, oh, stocks don't just go straight down, or, oh, it's just a small correction here, right? They could have been saying the same thing right here. So this isn't to scare anyone, but it is something we have to think about, because obviously we are falling out of a bearish pattern. We do have some pretty downside targets here, but like I said, first things first, that we want, before we get our panties in a bunch here, we want to hold this level that we're at here. So as of right now, we are not going to, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to hold it? I really don't think so, because we're just breaking out of this bearish pattern here, and all these moving averages are still coming down here in the hourly. I've had no signs of bounces, but we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to just go through that a little bit real quick. There obviously will be some big things coming here, and just hold on tight. It's going to be a bumpy fucking ride. So, for me, I'm just going to kind of start depositing, $100 a week back into my account here, so that I can continue having buying power here if I do happen to get screwed up, because I did put some cash into some plays today to potentially have a nice dip tomorrow, buyback tomorrow, so that I can make money off of those buybacks. But, looking at this now, I'm not too sure if we're going to get that buyback. So what could we do instead? You can look into the SQQQ And if you can get an hourly close above 1504, in my opinion, not financial advice, you could put some money into that, because that's basically the inverse to this. And I actually have some pretty decent size upside targets to that, as well as the TECS, a bear ETF, 3 times leverage. That one, I believe it broke out of a pattern today around $8 or $8.22. So I went long on that one, and it's up around $8.40. And the old peak was $8.44. So if it can break that, then you're actually making a higher high there. And yeah, so anyway, just consider some of those things, because for right now, obviously you could pick up your stocks on a cheap, but you might be able to pick them up on a cheap. But yeah, that's it, guys.